Hi, Mark White here from Idaho State Planning, and this is Senior Matters, used to be radio, now podcast. And it is a lovely day here in the Treasure Valley. And there's a whole story by why it's called Treasure Valley, because we're on the Boise River. We're in Boise. Those are the foothills. I don't know why it's Treasure Valley. Joining me today are a couple of gentlemen with incredible haircuts. From Homestead, and Homestead is a home care company. I've known Mr. Powell, Mike Powell, with the helicopters behind him. 5, 6 years? 7?
7, yes.
Oh my goodness. Now, I know that you used to fly helicopters.
I did.
Those two behind you, are those the type of helicopter that you flew?
No, those are Apaches, and
Yeah.
I think you know this. My son became a helicopter pilot.
Oh, that's right.
And he flies Apaches, and he actually took this picture.
Lovely.
He was coming home from the National Training Center in California. They were headed back to Fort Bliss, Texas, and this is a picture he took. So that's actually a sunrise. Just so you know, if they're going from California to Texas, and the sun is on the horizon, that means they're facing east. I'm just trying to explain that because I know you struggle with that sort of stuff. That's sunrise.
And of course, from the picture, we can tell.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And Matt Preston. Matt, nice to meet you, and welcome to our show. You are brand new to the Homestead here in the Treasure Valley?
That's correct. I have a business partner, Angela, and myself just purchased the homestead here in Boise from Mike and his wife, Geneva. But we're not new to homestead or in-home care.
Oh, very good. Very good. So are you new to the Boise area?
Angela actually lives here in the area, and I live in Oregon.
Okay, very good. Well, welcome. We've enjoyed working with Homestead. I know that with Mike's penchant for military folks, that's something that they focused on. And I know also that that Homestead has a particular niche or focus on folks with memory care issues. So we're going to jump into that in just a minute. So welcome. What I would like to know first, I'm going to have you introduce Homestead and talk about the services. But sometimes you have to set up a certain amount of information and knowledge so that when you say, now this is what we do, people go, oh, I get it now. Because if you say it up front, sometimes they not quite sure how that all fits together. So when we talk about home care or personal care service is often the term used. And I hate to belabor that point a little bit, but I think there's plenty of folks that don't know what services are available to them. And so I'm kind of starting at the beginning. Talk to us a little bit about personal care service or home care. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, let me say this, Mark. One of the things that they have a struggle with is knowing the difference between home care and home health.
Yes.
And they get those confused a lot. And you know what? Who can blame them? Until you actually need it, you don't have any reason to know.
Yeah.
So, making sure that people are clear. But I will tell you that the lines between the two is probably starting to get blurred a little bit. And it's one of the reasons that I'm really excited about Matt being here. And the more this conversation goes on, the more I want to back out and let Matt talk about it, because he's really going to do some cool things that Geneva and I never got done. We wanted to, we just didn't get them done. But Matt has the background and experience for it. As you said, I was a helicopter pilot. What did I know about home care other than what we did for our parents and learning it that way? Matt has actually been in the care business industry for a very long time, so he's very, very knowledgeable about that. So I will start to back myself out of this conversation unless I'm asked a question, and let Matt do the talking, because I'm really excited with where he's got the plans for the local homestead.
Okay, I think I understood all that, Mike. Thank you. Don't go too far away. Don't hop in the helicopter. Stay with us. So very good. Maddie set you up. Let's talk a little bit about home care or personal care service. I know that term is used for this.
Yeah. So home care provides different levels of care. At least our menu of services here in the Treasure Valley, we're providing different menus of services. So those services can be starting like home helper services, companionship services. Those things would involve transportation assistance or shopping, preparing meals, laundry and housekeeping, and then things such as engagement, going for a walk. So those would all fit into that level of care. So it's called companionship or home helper services.
Okay, so companionship it sounds like, okay, I go sit in the home and I'm watching TV with them and, make sure they get a drink or maybe help them to the restroom. But it's bigger than that. It's not just sitting there.
It's more than that. It's engagement. It's engagement. And keeping that health of the home intact, cleanliness, making sure light bulbs are changed, there's good lighting. We're trying to, provide engagement and social interaction as well. That's kind of the foundation of all home care, is that interaction and that social engagement with between our care staff and the client.
So I'm aware that one of the deficits for a lot of people in staying home is social interaction and activities. And watching TV doesn't quite do that. But I know several that are home alone, and they've told me that, they don't need any help with anything, but they're home alone, and they're home alone a lot. And so starting at the foundation, and especially if you got kids, say back east, and they got mom out here, and they're concerned about her being alone a lot. This is an option for them.
Correct. And we have just been delving into more technology that kind of is a wraparound service for engagement. Kind of like a lot of the new term that's come out even more so during this COVID thing is telehealth. And so we have what's called a home care tablet. I'll bring one in just a second, just to show you a little bit of what it looks like. But we can access that if people still don't feel comfortable having somebody in their home, at least in the beginning, to provide some of that social interaction. And our home care tablet it's a secured portal, and families can use that as well. It's very easy to manipulate. It's very intuitive. So we can access that as another portal for the client to use as well. So that's the basic bottom of the pyramid.
That's the foundation.
Correct.
Okay, so let me roll that back. So with the tablet, they can reach out to you. Now, is this on an ongoing basis, or do they have to schedule a period of time that they can reach out?
It can fall into either one of those scenarios. So, yeah. And this is what it kind of looks like. It's kind of like an iPad with big buttons.
Yes.
Very easy to use. And it is also built for mind I don't want to say mind games, but mind games as well to engage the mind and memory. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of services that can be accessed on here.
Very good.
And families have access to this as well. So we are able to report back to the client and the family how much it's used, and things like that, that may indicate potential or possible declines that are occurring that families that do live out of state are not able to identify. So.
And Mark,
Yes, sir.
posted on the far left-hand side, that very first button is a Homestead button.
Uh-huh.
And it says Homestead Now. If the client wants to call the office, all they have to do is touch that button. It rings in the office and they got them right there.
Got it. Okay.
And then they
very
can
good.
actually do just like we're doing here. It can be video. So they
Yes,
can
yes.
see and talk to each other. Yep. So they can get in touch with us immediately. The caregiver can do that as well. If
Got
they're
it.
running into a problem in the home that they would like some advice on, they can hit that Homestead Now button. They'll get somebody in the office and get some advice on how to proceed.
Love it. I love it. Now, that leads me into some thinking. You have these situations where the individual at home is going, well, I don't need that much help. I just, I really don't. And the kids, of course, are going, well, yes, you do. And so if the kids live here, then you can work with them and, figure out something. If they live far away, that's a little harder for them. And so they can rely on you more. But it seems to me with that tablet, with that portal, you can kind of track their needs a little bit. So, they say, well, I only need a half an hour a day. And I know you don't do just a half an hour a day. That's just economically, almost impossible. But if you tracked their use a little bit, you could come back and say, yeah, you said you only needed a half an hour a day, but let's review this and kind of see where you really are.
Yeah, it's more of a way to provide care and service and give them some social outlets. But it allows us to see, okay, when Mary first started using the home care tablet, for the first.
We seem to have lost Matt for a second.
We've lost Matt. He'll be back on in a second.
He will. So let me just say this. Some of the other things, for instance, just like I said with that button for Homestead Now, they can program that and they can put their kids' pictures on there. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
can do the same thing with them. So all they have to do is scroll over to their kid's picture, hit the button, and they make a video call to the kid. So it's really easy now. And the kids, of course, can do that back with mom or dad
Got it.
and say they can stay in touch. It's a really cool device. Geneva and I had just gotten into it. I think we had maybe 10 of them in homes at the time. And Matt's going to do a whole lot more. And I just think they're really, really cool. There are some games on it, like you said. There are weather reports. There's music. You can do a video library, or excuse me, a photo library where they can just keep pictures of their loved ones. But, okay, he's back. I'll shut up because he's more
Sorry.
important at it.
Well, very good. So this is a very nice tool for the social interaction, keeping some mental processes going. Communication is huge, but that's a start. That's not a finish of what Homestead does. That's just kind of here's where we start. So the next step would be actually probably coming into the home.
Correct. Coming into the home. And then we can add another level of service, which we call personal care services. So those would be helping with activities of daily living, which are things such as taking a shower or a bath, going to the bathroom, helping with ambulating, transferring, which is going from a sitting to a standing, or a
And
standing
by the
to a
way,
sitting.
ambulating means like walking.
Walking, or use of a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so those would all fall into the personal care level of service, which also includes that foundation, which is companionship and home helper services, maintaining the home, laundry, shopping, nutritional support, so cooking or shopping and meal prep. And those could be part of that engagement. If somebody enjoyed cooking, well, we want them engaged with that, because life keeps on going. We need to keep on living.
Yeah. So I think that one, people kind of have this notion there's something like that out there, right? We got something like that out there, but they're not really sure where to find it, and they're not sure exactly what's included. And then, of course, what I get back all the time is, well, it's just too expensive. We just can't afford it. And if we break it down with them a little bit, what I'm hearing with them is, in their mind, this is 8-10 hours a day. I got somebody coming into the home. And I don't think that's accurate. I was trying to set you up there. Did I set you
Thank
up
you.
well enough?
You did a great job.
Okay, very good. So take it away.
Yeah. All of our services are what I would call a la carte. So you pick and choose the services that you need, and you only use services and pay for services that you are provided. So for our office, you can use in-person services as short as 3 hours once a week. And in that 3 hours, we build what we call a care plan, based on what the client and the family tell us are the needs and what we assess to be the needs, to make sure that person is getting what they need in that 3 hours that we are there. Those 3 hours also, you can do 4 or 5, all the way up to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if that's what the need and desire is as well. But
I had one client. I had one client who was doing 24/7, kind of spendy, but she was financially in a situation where that worked for her. Yeah. So we can go from 3 to 7 times 24. I can't remember what that number, 160 something hours.
128, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So the first thing, though, is to sit down and assess where we are. What's the situation? What are the challenges? What do they need?
Correct. Yeah, and that's assessment is free. We can do it with just the client if they just so desire, or if other people, family members or client representatives, attorneys, whoever want to be there as well. Anybody who wants to be there can be there. And it's really just a question and answer session. We'll answer those questions that the family and the client may have. And then we gather information so that we can build a plan of care for that client when our caregiver is there providing service for them.
Okay, so give me perhaps a range of pricing, depending on what it is that we do. What does that look like? I think a lot of folks they have this notion in the back of their head that that's so expensive, we can't afford it.
Correct. Yeah. So pricing is, again, based on the assessment. We determine the level of service or level of care. And it ranges anywhere here in the Treasure Valley, anywhere from around $28 an hour up into the low $30 an hour range. So, and as far as payers, there are certain insurances or pay types that can pay for our services. Obviously, private pay is one of the ways that people pay for our service, but there are other ways, such as long-term care insurances and policies, VA, which veterans, of course. Medicaid is a payer type, and then there's a lot of grants that can be accessed. Homestead nationwide partners with a grant company called, or nonprofit grant program called Hilarity for Charity, where those that are afflicted with Alzheimer's their family can apply for these respite grants.
Oh, very good.
And they're short and long term. Some of them are over a year-long grants, and to provide care, so that the family caregiver, which you mentioned earlier, can have some of that respite and some rest, because this type of care, this caring at home or aging in place, is sometimes a wear and tear on that family caregiver, even more so than the actual client themselves.
Well, we were blessed in my family. My mom decided that she loved us and that we loved her, and she didn't want to change that. So she was very intent on, doing things that didn't require the kids, to be the primary caregivers, which turned out that was awesome. She's got a bunch of kids and grandkids, and they're all very involved, but that caregiving itself, we're not required to be that person. And what that does for us anyway, is then my relationship with my mom is that I'm still her favorite child.
There you go. You go.
I just am. I don't know why for sure, but anyhow, but we have that relationship and not a caregiver relationship. Now, she loves the folks that provide care for her. She just absolutely does. She is in assisted living down in Utah, and I was there. The CNA came in just to check on her. How are you doing, Mary Jo? Da, 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 da. And as she left, she goes, Mary Jo, I love you. And of course, my mom loves everybody, and we're connected somehow through the military, Mike. Oh my gosh, Dad and Mom were in Germany in 1954, 5, and 6. And so we still run into people that they were in Germany with. Oh, God. Anyhow, so, I love you too. And that's a great relationship, but that's still different from being one of the kids.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, where in Utah is she?
She's down in Logan.
Okay, yeah, I used to live in Draper.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
know that area very well.
Very good. Anyhow, yes, sir.
Your family is the exception.
That's why I say we were blessed. We were blessed with that.
Notice I didn't say exceptional.
Yeah, I know.
You're the exception.
Yeah, well, I'm the exception to an exceptional family. So.
But you've opened the door to that challenge where family members become caregivers, and they don't get to actually act and interact like families do.
No.
They lose that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the values of having a home care company come in and provide services. We often tell people, you can go back to just being the daughter, or you can just go back to being the son, okay? And let us take care of everything else. And I talked a lot about me time. I know you've probably heard my example before. There's a reason when you're on the airliners that they tell you to put your own mask on first.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself first, then you can't take care of anyone else. Of course, what they don't tell you on the airlines is if those masks pop down, they don't tell you how long you have until you lose useful consciousness, because if they told you, it would scare you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike, because I'm getting on a plane next month.
It's less than a minute.
Yeah. So here's what I see in working with families is it's almost always the daughter.
Yep.
Sometimes there are other people here, but it's almost always the daughter.
Statistically, the oldest daughter.
Yeah, and I see that. And you know what? If it isn't the oldest daughter, it's the daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. And they're lovely, wonderful people. So I don't want to give a wrong impression here. They're lovely, wonderful people, but as they jump into that caregiver role, they've forgotten what it was to just be the daughter, or they've forgotten how it was that mom was their best friend. And they get a little snippy. They get a little bossy. They get a little, no, mom, it's time for this, and they don't know what they don't know. And they don't realize that, especially if you're dealing with, dementias.
Right.
There's a whole art and a science to working with folks that have Alzheimer's. Just is. And they enter into this maybe at the beginning, and then things digress, and they don't know. So this is part of my plea for people to listen to what we're talking about, and not be afraid to pick up the phone and call professionals. These are people that are trained. They've got a background for it. Matt, you've been in this just a few years.
Well, since 1991, so 30 years this year.
That's no wonder we have the same haircut.
Exactly.
And they think, this is what I see. You guys see this more than I do, but they think that love is enough. I just love my mom or my dad, or I love my wife. That's enough. As long as I love them enough, we can make this work. And I guess what I'm suggesting is, no, we need a little more than that. And training, experience, expertise, processes, systems, all those things that they can get from a home instead to track what's going on and how we're doing it. And as the kids, unless this is what we do for a living, we're not equipped to do that.
And it's hard for them to see the value beyond the technical part, the hands-on part, what the caregiver will do. So, kind of where I was going there with the mask thing is that we have to take care of ourselves too. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our loved ones. So we've really got this two-sided coin where they'll be better with their parents and get to be more the kid than the caregiver, but they also get to take care of themselves more because they're going to burn themselves out. As you said, they get snippy. I mean, Matt, how many times have you seen kids, screaming at their parents, like, I've told you 100 times that you have to do it this way. And it's, you just kind of want to tell the kid, you can holler at them 1,000,000 times and they're still not going to do it because they don't know this. Their mind is not what it used to be. Yeah. And so giving them training is something that's available through Homestead. We can train them to be better caregivers when they're there. They can let us go do it, give them that break. I tell people all the time, and I know you guys will agree to this, me time is not selfish. They have to take time for themselves, or they're going to be terrible caregivers for their parents. They just are, or their spouse, or whoever they're at. If they don't take time for themselves, they are going to be terrible caregivers.
Yeah. It's sometimes the family is too close to that situation, and it becomes an area of exhaustion and So we actually have a client with us now whose husband, the wife is the client and the husband is her representative, and we provide him respite. He's going to take a few day trip, which meeting him for the first time, we've met almost all of our families and clients over the past month. And just meeting him, I think this is going to be great for him. So he could be away, regenerate, and then come back and be able to come from a renewed space of understanding, grace, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. So part of me is yelling, folks just need to try it. Folks need to give it a go. And the cost of doing this, well, Mike, I think you said it best. This is a two-sided coin, right? The cost of doing this is a few bucks out of pocket.
Yep.
The cost of not doing this is far greater. And the
Often.
impact is and then you got a family in disarray because the daughter here is not appreciated. The family that's not here doesn't understand everything that she's doing. And then the family that's not here starts snipping and griping about what it costs. And I've seen these things, and it's
Yes.
kind of sad. If I get a chance, I get up on that soapbox. Then I'm about 5'8" if I get on the soapbox, maybe 6 foot. And, and I walk through that and say, listen, whoa, time out. I've been watching this. You guys don't understand. So, Matt, how would we, give us kind of a little, how do we kind of get into this? What would you recommend for a family that hasn't been doing this? They've been taking care of mom, or they've been taking care of dad, and somebody got to them and said, listen, call Matt, because Mike, Geneva, they're not there anymore, but call Matt and talk to him. And you get that phone call. How do you get started? What are some things that they could maybe anticipate?
Yeah, sure. Well, I always start with one question. Tell me what's going on with your loved one, with mom or dad or your husband or wife. Just tell me what's going on. And usually that's the only question I need to ask. And I just take notes. So I kind of can hear what are those pain points, what is going on that we may be able to assist with. And from there, if they'll ask questions, usually obviously cost and things like that. But we want to access, if they are eligible for a grant or things like that, we want to try to access those funds for that patient, that client, that family first, if we can. And then there's an assessment piece, which usually takes about an hour. We'll come to the home, meet with, again, the client, the family, whoever the client wants to be there with them, answer those questions again, usually in person, and then just share stories, gather information. And then from that, the family can decide, and client can decide how many hours of service they would want per week. What's the best time of day? Is it in the morning? Would they rather we be there in the afternoon? Or when does that family caregiver want to take a little break each week? Is it maybe Wednesday they want to go to a Bible study in the evening? Or if it's a husband, maybe he wants to go play golf on Fridays, or what that is. And we can build those recurring schedules around their lives and what is best suited for them. Always focused on safety for the client, obviously. So.
Well, that was the trigger for us. Is mom had a couple of falls, and
Yeah.
one, she was outside for a period of time before somebody heard her. It still took about 1.5 years to get things put together. I'm guessing that's not unusual.
No, not at all.
but that was a trigger for us, is listen, she needs some help. She kind of jumped from, that was a situation, she had a gal that came in, did a little bit of light cleaning, and gave her, some social interaction. She had a daughter that was nearby, and 3 grandkids that were nearby. Did a wonderful job. I just have to say that. But then she kind of jumped from that. She was looking at independent living, which, it's a great place to be. And you guys can go right on into independent living because that's their home now. And that can be a wonderful situation for them.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but a lot of people have in their head, well, listen, I'm going to stay at home as long as I can, and then I'm going into assisted living. A couple of things that occurred to me is, one, we still want a high quality of life if you're going to be in home by yourself. And if you struggle at all getting out of bed, bathing, showering, you just are. My mom got tired of cooking for herself. Actually, here's the story quickly. When she finally, I knew that she'd made a decision to move to this place that we had seen. And I said, well, let's go across the street. It's an over 55 neighborhood. And I said, oh, these are kind of cute. And she goes, well, Mark, do they cook meals for you here? And I said, no. I knew the decision had been made at that point. Well, and she pointed out, I got to drive down to the store. I've got to find a place to park. I got to go in and get the groceries. I got to get them into the basket. If I'm lucky, they'll bag them for me. Then I got to get them out to the car. And then when I get home, I got to get them up the stairs, and then I got to put them away. And at some point I got to cook them, and then I got to figure out what to do with leftovers.
Yeah.
And she was ready. She was okay when that was, shifted off. She took that responsibility, she moved it over, and she was thrilled. And these are things that you can help with.
Definitely. You mentioned a couple of things in there I wanted to kind of touch base on. Kind of with your story, your mom's fall was kind of a transitional spot for her journey. And that is not uncommon. Most people don't plan. I hate to say it that way, but they don't plan. Families are seeing this decline, and even the client themselves are noticing these declines, but nobody needs care until they need care. And that usually happens when there's a fall or an issue with meds, where they took the wrong med or didn't take medications or didn't get the prescription from the store, whatnot. And those are when we get the call, the majority, probably 70% of the time. 30% of the time, people are planning and putting together a plan for themselves or their loved ones. But the vast majority of the time, we get that call once that injury or fall has occurred.
It's already a crisis when they call.
Then it becomes more of a crisis response. So,
and it seems to me, sorry to interrupt, but it seems to me if they had called even a month sooner, before the fall, we could have avoided the fall. Or there are things that we could do to drop the probability a little bit.
Reduce the risk for sure. Yes, for sure. So so that's a point to be made. And I don't think that's going to change a lot because, again, nobody needs care. Quote unquote, I don't need care. But even just a little bit, and to gradually add as needed, what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's a good way to start and then develop relationship with the Homestead agency and those staff and care staff that they're working with, because we many times become part of the family. And that's a great place to be.
So we're going to wind down here in just in a minute, but there's one more thing that I don't think you can, man, I don't think you can hit this enough and or hard enough. Kids, what should they be sensitive to, you know, when they go to moms or they go to dads? Man, there's a lot they could do if they were paying attention. Matt, Mike, what do they need to be paying attention to?
I think, well, there's a lot of things. The condition of the home. And if the family is visiting on a regular basis, I think it's more difficult to see versus family that may live further away and visit once or twice a year. Those changes with mom or dad are more pronounced when you don't see them on a daily basis. So how they ambulate, the condition of the home, looking in the refrigerator, what's in there? Is it stocked? Is it not stocked? Has the car been driven? Are there services that we can access that may be at no cost to them? I mean, we use Meals on Wheels services in Oregon a lot. If the client only needs assistance with preparing meals, we try to access those things for them to conserve their funds if need be, but we're always willing to do that as well. And again, so those are just some of the things to kind of look for when you're visiting a family member. Again, other things are more in your face. So trips to the hospital.
Oh yeah.
Multiple trips to the hospital. A lot of times family that do not live nearby may not see or hear about a fall. But when they're visiting, look for bruises on knees, elbows, hands, and
Black
because
eye.
that's or eye, yeah. Just look for those things that are indicators that mom or dad may be experiencing some declines. So,
well,
and we're able to access services again that may help prevent those things later in the future, like home health services or outpatient therapy services, to help strengthen mom or dad and prevent those future falls.
So Mark, one of the things that they're taught, that the caregivers are taught, and we talk about them being red flags, but essentially they're taught to look for anything that's different. Oh, there's a change. Gained weight, lost weight, forgetful, not forgetful. I mean, anything like that. And that's what those family members need to be thinking too. What's different? Because if there's something different, then there's been a change of some kind in the home.
Well, I've noticed, like in the neighborhood, we've got a family that we keep an eye on from a distance. We don't go, over there all the time, but newspaper accumulates on the front step. Something's going on. I know my mom's sense of smell was not great. So the fridge, you opened it up and you're going, oh, when's the last time you went shopping?
Right.
Or the trash hasn't been taken out.
Mm-hmm.
These are all, and I know some of this is really subtle. Some of it isn't so subtle, but some of it is. I mean, is there mail in the mailbox and how long has it been there?
Right. Right.
And then it seems to me that if you ask them about it and they fumble a little bit.
Yes.
It's a flag. It's not, oh my gosh, we got to stop. But it's a flag if going to the bathroom, I think. and check their meds. And
they'll try to cover up with humor.
I know.
They'll try to just make everything funny and no big deal. Yeah.
So I can tell you from my side, from the legal planning side, there are family members that are in as much denial as the patient or the client is. Just absolute total denial, and sometimes worse than the parent.
Sometimes even more.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had them that they don't understand mom and dad's condition at all.
Yeah.
And it's particularly difficult when mom and dad are struggling with some sort of dementia and the kids don't recognize it. So they listen to their mom and dad. And mom and dad will say, oh, well, this is what's happening in my home. And the kid says, oh, okay, great. No, it's not great because they're not right. You know, and it's not that mom and dad are lying. It's that they have dementia.
Yeah.
And the kids have not recognized that yet. That's a very, very challenging situation.
Yeah. So, Matt, I imagine that what we've just been talking about is a huge reason for you going into the home to visit with them, to do an assessment, find out what's going on.
Correct.
And for family members, I know this can be challenging to let somebody else into the house. It can be challenging to hear what they have to say because maybe it doesn't comport with our worldview. And so I know that this takes a lot of strength. It absolutely does. You have to be strong, but we have to be strong for a really good reason. And it's not us. I mean, it is at a point, but it's take care of and make sure that family member has a high quality of life. Oh my goodness. Getting old is bad enough, right?
It is bad enough.
It's a challenge, dang it. And then
my mom always said getting old was not for sissies.
My mom says the same thing. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's wrap this up. Matt, Mike, take turns here, I guess. Tell us a little bit more about Homestead. How long have they been around? Who are they? What do they do? Is it just a local office?
I'm going to let Matt do that because, the community needs to know Matt way more than they need to know me. So take it away, Matt.
Yeah. Homestead's been around for 26 years. They were the founder of home care in the United States, and they're based in Omaha, Nebraska. It's a franchise system. So each franchise office is locally owned and operated. So they truly believe in supporting and integrating into the community. So when you know a homestead is in your community, support them because they also support nonprofit organizations that are focused on mainly senior care. So at our office in Oregon, we work a lot with our community nonprofit partners such as Meals on Wheels, the Alzheimer's Association, Parkinson's Resources, and a lot of those nonprofit groups that support seniors and their ability to stay at home and age in place. So locally, the Homestead office here has been here for about 13 years. Is that right, Mike?
That's correct.
And it's just a great area and great way for us to be able to support our friends and seniors and families here locally in the Treasure Valley. So,
okay, very good. So now, last thing as we kind of fly out of here. You see what I did there? Fly out of here.
Yeah, that's good.
Apaches behind us. My thinking is that if you see an Apache helicopter coming at you, you just go like this. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah,
Tell me what to do. I'm not moving. Anyhow, so how do we get hold of you? I imagine there's different ways.
Yeah, lots of ways. You can always visit us on our website, which is www.homeinstead.com/707. You can see about our office.
Hold it. 707. Isn't that an error message?
An airplane.
It is.
Of course. Yes. Yes.
How about that, right? So, or you can reach out to us here at our office at 888-9962.
All right, very good. And I think we're all on the same page on this. If we could get anything done out of this conversation today, is call. Even if you don't think you need it now, even if you don't think mom and dad are there right now, it's not going to hurt to call, get information, to get started, so that when the time comes, we're at least know where the path is.
And everybody can afford to call.
Yeah, very good. I like that. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Mark.
Has a lot of stuff. I know that some folks feel overwhelmed. I think the most important thing to know for me is there's help. They're available. And thank goodness they know what they're doing, because we don't always know what we're doing, especially not in the care area. We love these people. They took care of us. We want to take care of them. And it's hard sometimes to realize it takes more than love. I know what the Beatles said. I got that. But sometimes it takes a little more to make that work. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with you maybe at Joe Mama's. That was a shameless plug for Joe Mama's, but that's a great breakfast place. That's the only time Mike and I see each other. All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll catch up with you next time.
I'll see you sometime today, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Mark.